What's up, everybody? Charlie Marlow here. Been a while since I did a video on camera, so I wanted to jump on, talk with all of you. Obviously, the last couple months, not great for Cardinals baseball with the team way out of it, but there was something interesting that I saw and heard yesterday that I thought we could talk about. Want to get all your opinions on this as well. As you check the ticker down there, it says Willson Contreras as an outfielder. I think this is really, really interesting. So, long story short, sometimes even though I work at 590 The Fan KFNS, I will listen to other radio stations. So, I was basically yesterday afternoon listening to another radio station, and Brad Thompson was on it. So, you can do the math there. But no, they played a Brad Thompson clip, which I found very interesting. Obviously, BT, who we all know and love, he does the color analysis on TV for Bally Sports Midwest, also works at 101 ESPN. So he's a guy who's connected to the team, travels with the team, is on the road, a former player. And so I'm paraphrasing here. I was trying to find the exact quote on social media, but his quote was about what the Cardinals would like to happen with Willson Contreras this offseason, which is him becoming a corner outfielder. And when I heard that, that just really kind of piqued my interest because I thought that was something that would be in the cards on a, let's say, 50-50 basis. If he was going to be a catcher for half the time and DH for a little bit and maybe get out there in the corner outfield for 30 games or so. So when I heard it from him, and I don't think he's just throwing this out there as an opinion, I'm sure he's talked with somebody within the organization or people about the plans moving forward. So what do you guys think of that? I want to get your opinions. Comment, like, subscribe, please. First of all, let's go ahead and kind of let's turn back the clock because this clearly isn't coming from nowhere. We all know what happened earlier in the season. I mean, it was what everybody was talking about locally, but also nationally along the baseball landscape of all the writers and the talkers and the TV folks and all that. So think back. This was about what, a month or so into the season. You start to have some pitchers say some things in some post games about, the calling of pitches or the sequencing was kind of weird. You heard this from Jack Flaherty. I believe you heard something from Adam Wainwright. I can't remember exactly. I don't have the greatest memory, but and if you guys remember, drop it in the replies here. So remember, you start to hear those comments. I remember it was a Saturday that the Cardinals were going to play the Cubs coming up that next week. And so I remember being on Twitter and I just see Twitter blowing up with this news that Willson Contreras is now going to be an outfielder. And here we are. This was like a month or so, basically, into a 5-year, $87.5 million deal with a 6th-year option that you're essentially saying this guy is no longer a catcher. And then remember, they basically had him not catching for a week or so, 8 days, and then he comes back, and he's been okay defensively. When I say okay, he's been really good offensively. He's been well below average defensively as a catcher all season long. But I think you also knew what you were getting into, we thought, with Willson Contreras as a catcher. I'll read you his numbers and all that, offensively and defensively. But, everybody kind of went crazy on that Saturday because the Cardinals, it seemed like, were scrapping Willson Contreras as a catcher a month into this 5-year deal. And then obviously some things change. He doesn't play any outfield this year. And from what I heard from some people around the organization, because look, you can criticize the Cardinals all you want, and we have this year more than any other year. But also the Cardinals usually they know what they're doing. They say the right things. I don't think the Cardinals on that Saturday would have come out of nowhere and said, "Oh, Willson Contreras, he's now an outfielder." They don't just say that unless that's been discussed. Front office, field staff, Willson Contreras. So on that Saturday, they make the announcement Willson Contreras is going to be an outfielder. The baseball world just goes crazy. That's all anybody's talking about, tweeting about, writing about. It's a huge national story. And then something changes because clearly he was not an outfielder. From what I heard from some people around the team is that was the plan. And then maybe the plan changed, whereas the player didn't really like that plan of attack. You have to wonder too. Look, this is right before Willson Contreras was about to go to Wrigley Field in Chicago and do his big media deal anyway, because he was going back to where it all started for him for his first 7 years of his big league career. And then just think about the embarrassment of that. So you're already going back to the place that you played really well, you won a World Series, they didn't want you, and then the whole story would have been, well, now you're an outfielder. And it was still a crazy deal. He still had to do all the media there in Chicago, and he didn't catch for 8 days or so, which was really, really odd. So let me go back and look here real quick. So yeah, Willson Contreras, obviously first 7 years with the Cubs, played 125 games this season with the Cardinals. This is his age 31 season. And let's see. So he'll be 32 next May. This year, OPS plus 125. Last year it was 126. And obviously right now he's on the 10-day IL, season over. We'll break down all of that as well. But what I was trying to say was, so he has to go back to Chicago. He has to do all the interviews anyway. And that's an embarrassment. I mean, it's a huge embarrassment. If a month into your deal, you're basically no longer thought of as a catcher. So clearly something changed there between that Saturday, the Sunday, and when they go to Chicago. Now, I was kind of wondering all along, look, if you're gonna do something like that, that's a really hard transition during the season. So it would not surprise me when we've heard what Brad Thompson had to say. If they're going to make this move, you do it in the offseason, okay? And look, things were going really poorly for the Cardinals first month or so, but I just don't think you can scrap that right when the season starts. You got this guy who didn't play in the World Baseball Classic. He was trying to get on the same page with his new teammates, with the Cardinals pitching staff. Clearly, it did not work, but that's not something you can really pull off mid-season or early in the season like that. So if the Cardinals and Willson Contreras decide to go this route and he becomes a corner outfielder, I think that's something that shouldn't surprise us too much if that were to happen in the offseason. I thought all along, especially with Andrew Kisner, the way he hit this year, and he became essentially, darn near close to a league average offensive catcher, and was much better than that for a while there. I know he's fallen off a little bit. Here, we'll look up Andrew Kisner's numbers just so I can give you some stats on this. I know for a while, I looked a couple months ago, and his OPS plus was about 116. So here he is now, Andrew Kisner. OPS plus is 90. So he's close to league average, and this was the best offensive year of his career, with 10 homers and 10 doubles. So the power really helped him, hitting 238 but slugging 425. So look, that's something you'll take as a backup catcher. But I know I'm kind of bouncing all around here. But my thought was, look, if you had this idea a month into the season of moving Willson Contreras to the outfield, it didn't just come out of nowhere. So I'm thinking, okay, you have Andrew Kisner, and he's proven himself to be a solid backup catcher in the big leagues, at least for this year and the next year or so. You have Ivan Herrera waiting in the wings. We'll look up his numbers in a second here too. But, could it make sense where maybe you split them next year, 2024, catching games, where Willson Contreras catches, let's just say 81 for easy numbers. He catches 81 games. Andrew Kisner catches 81 games, but you still want Willson Contreras' bat in the lineup, obviously. He's had a really nice year. So Contreras this year, 20 bombs, 67 RBI, 264 batting average, 358 on base, 467 slug for an 826 OPS, 125 OPS plus. Remember, he was 126 last year when he was an all-star with the Cubs, and his best OPS plus year ever was 2019 when he had a 127. His career OPS plus is 116, so he's above that for this year. So he's had a really nice season offensively. Willson Contreras we're talking about, obviously. And let's go down and look at fielding this year. I just want to break it down by position for Willson Contreras. So he has caught 97 games, and 89 of those were starts, 30 games at DH. And remember, he had the 8 games where he didn't catch. He was on the IL towards the end of this season here right now. So you just wonder, in a perfect scenario, did the Cardinals probably want to catch Willson Contreras, let's just say around 110 games, and then Andrew Knizner catches the other 50, 52 games, whatever it is. So I want to look up Knizner one more time here to see. So in terms of Knizner's games caught, probably a little more than we expected this year. So Knizner caught 65 games, which it's not too much more, and he'll catch here the rest of the season. We got a couple games left, but again, probably in a perfect world, the Cardinals thought Willson Contreras catches 110-ish, Andrew Knizner catches about 50-ish. So, what do you guys think about everything that I'm saying right now? I mean, am I crazy? Because look, this is coming from Brad Thompson, somebody who's connected to the organization and a former player, when he says on the radio that he thinks, the Cardinals, what they would like to happen is Willson Contreras becomes a corner outfielder, which, by the way, look, either way, if Willson Contreras becomes a corner outfielder in year 2 of his deal, and hopefully he hits really well, but that is just, I don't know if disastrous is the right word for that contract, but you don't sign a guy for 5 years and $87.5 million to be your corner outfielder DH. I mean, a big part of that contract was that Willson Contreras was being paid to catch. It's a premium position. It's one of the most premium positions in baseball. We all know that. When you're talking, shortstop, middle infield, catcher, center fielder, there's a lot of corner outfielders out there that can hit. So clearly they would have not given a 30, 31-year-old corner outfielder that type of deal. One of the reasons you gave the years and the money to Willson Contreras, a huge reason is the fact that he's going to be a catcher. So either way, if this happens, it's a really bad look for the Cardinals. But once you've already made the deal, you have to move forward and do what's best for the team and the organization. And look, maybe that is Willson Contreras. Let's just say he's your starting left fielder. Let's say that he plays, 110 games or so in left field. He continues to DH about 30 games, which is what he did this year, or whatever that number is, 35. So he's probably, you want him to play 145 games, whatever it is. The majority of those are in left field and 30 or so games at DH. What do you guys think of that? Because look, if you just pencil in your outfield for 2024, there's some big question marks there as well. I think at this point, Jordan Walker is going to be your right fielder. I still think down the road, he could be a first baseman, but you'd have to wait until Paul Goldschmidt moves on from the organization. But let's just say right now, Jordan Walker is your right fielder. Let's just pencil in Willson Contreras as a left fielder and Lars Nootbaar as a center fielder. That's probably the outfield that I like right now. At this point, we don't know if Tyler O'Neill is going to be around. And if so, you can't count on him. Whatever you get from Tyler O'Neill, it's crazy. I feel like we've said this now for 5 straight off seasons. But whatever you get from Tyler O'Neill is a bonus. And maybe he's moved. Dylan Carlson at this point feels more like a fourth outfielder type than a starting everyday outfielder. So to me, it's not the craziest thing in the world if you're starting outfield for most games next year is Jordan Walker in right. Let's just put Lars Nootbaar in center. Let's put Willson Contreras in left. And also know that Willson Contreras is going to DH a lot. Let's say he DHs 30 to 40 games even, whatever it is. There's a lot of games when you basically take into account rest days, off days, you take into account righty-lefty matchups. There's enough time for people like Dylan Carlson, if Tyler O'Neill's here, Palacios, whoever else, to jump in there and kind of fill in all those innings at outfield. But, I was always thinking this season, because again, the Cardinals, they don't make that announcement early this year and say Willson Contreras is going to be an outfielder if they didn't really think about making it happen. So I was wondering, okay, well, maybe it's Andrew Knizner can catch. I know I've already mentioned this. Maybe it's Knizner catching half the games, and maybe it's Contreras catching half the games, and maybe Contreras then plays 30 games in the outfield, and then Contreras he DHs his 30 games. So that gets you about to the 140, 145, whatever, how many games, 150 that you want Willson Contreras to play. But you just wonder too if, look, at this point, if they don't want him to be a catcher, you just wonder if this offseason you just go, boom, we're just going to make the change. You are an outfielder. Don't even worry about bringing the catcher's gear. Don't even worry about bringing your catcher's mitt. This is the plan moving forward. And then you wonder what's going to happen at the catching position, because you have Kiz. You like him as a backup. I don't think you love him as your starting catcher. Is Herrera, is he ready? And would he be ready for a timeshare with Andrew Knizner? So maybe this is an offseason where you go out there and it's crazy to say because they just signed Willson Contreras last winter, but maybe this is an offseason, if this plan is really moving forward, where you sign that veteran catcher for a year or so to come in and still catch a lot of games, and somebody like Knizner is the backup. Who knows? I mean, there could be trade possibilities with somebody like Ivan Herrera. Let's go ahead and look up Herrera's numbers too here. I know I'm kind of jumping all around here. See, look, it's been so long since I did a video on camera. I don't even know how to do it anymore. Plus, my brain doesn't usually work in a linear path. So Ivan Herrera this year with the Cardinals, 12 games, batting 265, 359 on base, 294 slug. So not a lot of power. Very, very small sample size. In his 2 years, couple of cups of coffee with the Cardinals, he has 52 total at bats over the last couple of years, hitting 212. And again, not much OBP, hardly any power at all. But let's go and look at his minor league season, because all these things are intertwined in terms of what you do with Contreras. If he's a corner outfielder, is he going to catch? Is he going to catch a little bit? Is he still going to be your primary catcher? So here we go. So with Memphis, Ivan Herrera this year, 83 games, had a nice offensive season at AAA. 297 batting average, 451 on base, 500 slug for a 951 OPS, and decent amount of power, 10 homers, 60 RBIs, did have 27 doubles. That's Willson Contreras here in his age 23 season. So he will turn 24 next June. So kind of just wanted to mention all the players, literally and figuratively, in this equation that we're talking about. Because Willson Contreras, if he's no longer a catcher, you have a domino effect. Is Knizner the backup? Are you not saying that Ivan Herrera is ready to have a timeshare with Knizner? Do you then go out there and get that everyday catcher and Knizner stays a backup? Are there trade possibilities with somebody like Ivan Herrera? It doesn't seem like Andrew Knizner would be somebody that would be traded, but who knows? And then again, you're moving Willson Contreras to the outfield, which, look, man, it makes sense to me. None of these outfielders have basically taken the bull by the horns the last couple of years, whether it's injuries, underperformance. I mean, I think you really like Nootbaar. I think you are really going to like Jordan Walker. He's had a nice season for his rookie year. Carlson, to me, is a fourth outfielder at this point until he proves otherwise. Tyler O'Neill is just an injury risk. Whatever you get from him, if he's even here, that's what you get until he proves otherwise. And maybe once every 4 years, he has that good, healthy season like we saw, whatever year that was, 2019. And then we'll see what happens. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I was just I was very intrigued when I heard Brad Thompson say this on the radio, because to me that's coming from a guy who knows something and who's connected to the organization. And it really shouldn't shock us that much, because basically they said this was going to happen earlier this year on that Saturday before the Cubs series, before everything changed. And you just wonder if ego, and because it was too soon, didn't make sense to do that during the season. But if you're going to make a move like this, it's something that, look, you got to give Willson Contreras the whole winter to figure this out and to start training and all that. So who knows? What do you guys think? I'll wrap up the video. I know I've been rambling here. Ugly season for the Cardinals. I hate to say it. This would be the time of year where I'm really excited to talk baseball, watch baseball, playoff baseball coming up, and we got none of it. And it's been a boring last 2 months of the season since the trade deadline, except for the Adam Wainwright starts, which were interesting, but now he got 200. Happy for that. And not much really to focus on and get into the last week or so of this season, but I'm super excited to see what happens this winter, especially if this Contreras thing happens. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. And then the fact that the Cardinals have to go out there and get what, 6 pitchers? You need 3 starters, and you're not loving what you're getting from Miles Michaelis and Steven Matz, the 2 guys that are going to be coming back next year. You probably need 3 relievers. This is going to be a tall order for John Mozeliak and the Cardinals front office to go out there and to win a big free agent bid for somebody like an Aaron Nola, whoever it is, to win a big trade bid and give up the most but prospect capital to win a bid for somebody like a Logan Gilbert or whoever else is in that bucket of players, to sign that veteran guy that's somebody along the lines of a Lance Lynn or a Michael Wacha, not those guys necessarily, but that type of name, and then rebuild your bullpen. It's going to be really, really difficult. It's going to be super interesting to see all that this winter. And before I go, I got to jump on here and give a shout out to our members on the channel. Okay, it's GI2Z. He's our medium member. Thank you for that. Or is it GI2Z or Gay GEI, whatever it is, 2Z. Bird Chatter Baseball, Bobby the Handsome Guy Johnson, Charles Wagner, Michael Hawkins, Mother Goose, my boy Stevie Reeb. I saw him the other day downtown as we were driving around in the Codago George Strait RV, having fun during the Mizzou game and the college football Saturday. That's Stevie Reeb, SMFR, the podcast, and Bren Gillespie, the original member here on the Charlie Marlow YouTube channel. Like I said, I'm rambling. It's been a while. I want to do more videos. I will definitely, in the offseason, do more on-camera stuff. But Cardinals were pretty boring the last couple months, let's be honest. And I've been super busy doing all the Kenny Wallace YouTube stuff. That channel is popping, and I really spend most of my time working on that channel on YouTube when I'm not doing Hot Take Central on 590 The Fan. Hopefully you guys listen to that show. All right, I will shut up now. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know, what do you think about Willson Contreras and his future? Will he be a catcher? Will he be an outfielder? Is this the craziest thing you've ever heard because they just gave this dude a 5-year, $87.5 million deal last winter? It's a little nutty. All right, guys. Have a good one. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Adam Wainwright's concert. Are you excited about that? Are you excited to see how Waino sings on that Saturday for the final homestand? Let me know what you think. All right, peace.